Hey guys, what's going on? So I just interviewed David Crow of The Infectious Myth, and as I sent him the link to the Zoom meeting, right? So I can have him log in, and then he calls me. He's like, "I don't think I can get in with this," and I was like, "What?" And I was like, "Oh shoot!" And I realized I'd sent him to link to Out of Shadows, the movie. And I was like, hey, Ben, but it's a good movie though. But we got that straightened out. So that interview should be up in like 2 weeks because I have a couple interviews backlogged. But I thought it was funny, and I just started talking to him about it. And I was like, I need to make a video, because when I see someone do good work, especially for free, you guys, it's for free. You can go to Out of Shadows, and just a reminder, there is an Out of the Shadows, which is a horror movie. It's not that one. It's the documentary Out of Shadows. It has a screenshot of the sky, and it says Out of Shadow, and it's gotten like, I think within 3 days, it now almost has 4 million views. It's phenomenal, and a lot of stuff I already knew, but it's a really good movie if you want to get people thinking about the occult symbolism and the mind control and the brainwashing in Hollywood. And I think it's really well done because, I mean, it's not like really open to interpretation. They start by talking, oh, by the way, if you're going to watch it, or if you haven't seen it, they come back and watch this movie because I might give you some spoilers accidentally while I'm talking about it. So just to be on the safe side. But they start with CIA mind control, Operation Paperclip, which is some things I've talked about on this channel. Some stuff I knew about already. There are a couple things I didn't know, but for the most part I knew a lot of this stuff. But it's about the stunt guy who gets injured, and because he's injured, it leads him to this lady that's like she's like a rehabilitation therapist, and because his injury was very specific, so she helps rehabilitate him, and through his rehabilitation, rehabilitation process, she helps him to or kind of gets him on the road to thinking about some of the stuff. Like, she's like, can I pray for you? He's like, okay, you can pray for me, but all right. She was like, yeah, I just have this feeling that you have a lot of dark entities around you. And he was like, either you're flipping crazy or you believe this stuff is real. She was like, a lot of these people in Hollywood do these satanic rituals where they basically, mess up children and stuff. And she goes, I'm the one that puts them back together. Yeah, this shit's real, basically. He's like, okay, but it piqued his curiosity, so he started really researching. And it was probably a really hard paradigm shift for him because, he knew a lot of these celebrities, and, it's so funny. It's so funny how people, they know them, but they don't know them, right? Like, they know them, they may have even known them for years, they may hang out with them, but then, there's another side to these people, because you're not with them all the time. You don't know everybody 100%, I remember I was at this, party one time, and I said something about James Franco, and I was like, I forgot what I said, but it wasn't personal, but because I've never met him, I don't know James Franco, whatever, but this guy was like, oh, you better watch what you say, I know James Franco. Oh, I think I just said James Franco seems like an asshole or something like that, and I'd heard a couple stories from a couple people, but and the guy was like, oh, well, he's my friend. And I was like, really? I was like, would you tell him that I think he's an asshole? That'd be great. I was like, I don't give a shit. I don't know these people. They don't know me. But, anyway, people think that they know other people or these celebrities. And I know a lot of people that like to brag and boast that they've hung out with this celebrity and they've been to the celebrity's house, just being born and raised in LA. I'm sorry, my eyes itching. I'm touching my face. Oh my God, I'm gonna die of coronavirus, I think. Anyway, maybe my mascara's old or something. But yeah, I know a lot of people that like to brag and be like, I know this celebrity, I hang out with him, or I'm his coach, or I do that, or I do this, but I'm like, they don't really know these people. They don't really know these people. So going back to the guy, he's talking about how he knows he starts digging into like the occult symbolism in Hollywood, and it leads them to like, you know, Operation Paperclip and Project and the CIA stuff and Satanism. And I think the sweetest thing about the movie was he was like, yeah, you know, I really started to get into the Sweet Church, and I thought it was very interesting. But the sweetest thing was like, he was like, I was looking for somebody that can, you know, have my sentiments, or was on the same like line of thought that I was. And he found a fellow stunt guy that was totally awake, and it was just like they totally bonded and they made this movie together. For me, that was straight up romance, y'all. That was straight up romance. I loved it because I got a little teary-eyed. I don't know why, but that like really moved me, because I know what it's like when you're going through this and you start to like, you want to talk to people and you want to tell people about all the stuff that you found, and you want to bounce ideas off of people and see if like, am I crazy? Am I thinking the same things? Like what? So when you finally find somebody, it's like finding a soulmate, you know? Maybe I'm taking it too far, but that's what it's like for me. Or, you know, that's what it was like for me when I started to find kindred spirits who were on the same path and who wanted to know truth and be empowered, you know. And I'm gonna leave it right there, because I'm just the type of person that I get excited about a movie and then I'll end up talking about a movie, and then people are like, I just saw the movie, you just told me the movie, I don't even need to see the movie. Like, that's how bad I am about that stuff. But it's really well put together. The production value is great. The timing of it is impeccable. And if you guys like it, you know, share it and donate. They're also asking for donations. Like they did this for free. They did over an hour movie. I think an hour. It's about average hour 20 minutes, right? Movie for free that's just out there on YouTube. And I'm surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if they get it taken down. I mean, I hope that doesn't happen, but given the subject matter and given the times right now and given the censorship, I wouldn't be surprised if they try to censor them. I made a copy just in case, so I would even suggest that you copy it. I'm not sharing it with people. I'm just making a copy in case they take it down, but I'm giving the link to people to share it with, so these people can make some money and get some exposure, because they did an excellent job. Yeah, I mean, I remember when I first kind of heard about this stuff. We did an interview with this guy named Kevin Annett, and I'm sorry if I told this before, because I talked to a lot of people, and then I'm like, did I tell that in a video? Did I tell that to somebody? I don't think I've told the story on this channel. So Kevin Annett, he wanted to get like I think a tribune together and actually hold a lot of people accountable for you know, some of the satanic rituals they were doing and the child trafficking and stuff like that. And I mean, he was the first person I heard talk about the royal family being involved. And he was talking about, well, first of all, he has an interesting story. He was saying that he's Canadian, so he was saying he was a minister, and he opened up a church in Canada. And just like, you know, they're Native Americans here, they're Native Americans in Canada, and that the town that he was in, you know, it was very segregated, not by law, but just by culturally segregated by choice. And a lot of the Native Americans didn't really talk to, or Native Canadians, sorry, didn't talk to a lot of the people that, you know, the settlers or whatever. And when he opened up his church, he was like, people were like, oh, don't ask them, like, and he's like, what? He's like, they're all God's children, like, I'm gonna like ask them. And, you know, he was like, everybody's welcome in my church, I don't discriminate. So then through the years, as they got to know him, they started to open up to him, and they start to tell him about like the abuse that they had received through the other church communities. And there was this one guy that said the Queen of England claim, and I guess at the time he didn't know who she was. He was just like, oh, that's the lady, because it was like when Queen Elizabeth was really young, and she came and she had like a picnic or whatever with these kids. And there's a picture of her with all these kids, all these like native kids, and she's like smiling there, and they're all together, like in the picture. And then they just go away. He saw it happen, but he wasn't in a group. He was like, yeah, but she took like some kids away out of the group, and they never came back. And I was like, what the fuck? And he was like, yeah, and they were, you know, the guy, so the native guy that knew all this was like gonna testify actually, and the police came and picked him up. So by this time this guy's like 40, 50 years old. He's an old guy, right? And the police came, picked him up, took him to the hospital, and then he slipped to a coma and died. So of course they suicided him. But I mean, it just kind of like blew my mind, because I cross-referenced some of the stuff that he was able, you know, what he was talking about. I saw the picture that he was talking about, like that picture existed. And then that guy that he was talking about, that was documented too. I don't know if I can find it. I don't remember exactly what it was, but yeah, that was all like documented. So I was like, this is crazy. And I remember before I even like awoke and was even doing the podcast in 2008, I went to England with my mom, and we went to Buckingham Palace. And I remember I just got the coldest, darkest feeling being around Buckingham Palace. I cannot explain it. Even more so, I went to Stonehenge too. I didn't really feel that at Stonehenge, but I felt that shit in Buckingham Palace. I cannot explain it. I was just like, I really don't want to be there. And I was just like, yeah, I was like, I just want to go. I just want to go. I just want to go. And my mom's like, all right, you know, she took some pictures and stuff, but we did not hang around that place. It was just really dark. But now I kind of see maybe my instincts were right. You know, now looking back at that, I didn't even think anything of it. I just knew that I didn't want to be there. It was so weird. So, anyway, so then fast forward though, I kind of put that out of my mind, and then I was just like, you know, I will watch AJ. When I used to watch AJ, when AJ had good interviews, right? Like he had the long form interviews and stuff with really, really informative people. Aaron Russo and stuff like this. Who did he interview? I forgot. Anyway, but he would talk about certain things, and then he brings some of that shit up, and I'm just like, all right, man. Like I'm just gonna I want to hear you talk about GMOs and vaccines. When you talk about the satanic shit, like this is too much. I don't believe that shit. You're saying that they're all, you know, blah, blah, blah. And then we interview Sean Stone, we interview Fritz Springmeier, and I learned a little bit more of that stuff during through the years, because, you know, Sean Stone, Oliver Stone's son, is really into, is investigating the occult stuff, and I think he's a good guy though, but that's something that he really is, he's had personal experience with crazy shit, so that's kind of like where his head is at. And then he had his own show where he interviewed people talking about that. And then Fritz Springmeier was talking about the MK Ultra stuff. And I start to research into that, and I start looking at interviews with like Kathy O'Brien and Arizona Wilder and Aaron McCollum, and I watched a lot of Project Camelot. And I mean, I got nightmares. Like literally, I mean, I'm not like, I play a tough game, I'm a smart ass, but when it comes to demons and shit, I'll fuck that shit. Like I'm not like, I was Christian Catholic. So for me, like The Exorcist and demon movies, I'll do psychological thrillers. I don't fucking do demon movies, okay? I'm not about that. Like all that shit really scares me. But I got depressed. I had nightmares, you know, just thinking about it. Because when you watch those testimonies, they seem really genuine. And most of the time you can tell when people are bullshitting, and just some of the stuff that they would talk about would just be horrific. And those are the top three main ones that really have been real whistleblowers talking about this stuff. But there were other testimonies that I listened to, and it was so tragic and so like just not like beyond heartbreaking. I can't even really think of words. I feel like the words that I'm using aren't even describing the level of horror and just thinking about what some of those people went through. You know, if you care about people and you listen to that stuff, like there's no way that is not going to affect you. Like no way. So but But still, I was like, okay, well, maybe it's just like a small percentage of the population. Maybe it's not like, you know, so prevalent in Hollywood and, you know, blah, 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 blah. And now I'm just like, this shit's fucking prolific. It's everywhere. And by the way, I don't think everybody in Hollywood is doing that stuff. And I think a lot of people on the lower ranks of Hollywood don't even know that they're doing that they're a part of that stuff. That they're a part of that, you know, and like, you know, I know people that are dancers and actors and stuff, and I know they're not involved in that stuff, but they're just pawns. So even if you see Katy Perry, whatever, you know, doing like an occult ritual or, you know, for the Grammys, the higher dancers don't really know that they're performing a ritual. They're just happy to get a job, and they're just doing whatever the choreographer tells them to do, you know, and they're getting paid good money to do it. And before that, you know, they were fucking living on a couch somewhere, living out of a car, because dancers are like very, 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 they're like the most, I would say dancers and writers out of all the people in Hollywood, of all the artists, are the most shitted on. They're the most like under-respected, underpaid, underappreciated people. And, you know, their safety is not looking after it like it should be. I mean, I love dance. I love all artists, but I mean, if I had to be honest, Cirque du Soleil people, you know, they get treated like shit, and they're really underpaid, but a lot of them put up with it because they want to get their visas. So, you know, but they're, you know, so they're not gonna, you know, you get dancers like that and stuff, and they see stuff going on. You know, that's another way to control people too, is through visas. You know, talking about control. It's not always being compromised by having them, you know, drugging them and making them do things against their will. But it's also just even little shit like that. Not just money, not just power, but just like, you know, people that work their ass off to finally get to America. And, you know, they see Madonna like, you know, sacrificing a goat or a kid or something. They might just keep their mouth shut. A, because they're scared, or two, you know, because they, you know, they don't want to lose their visa. I don't know. Like, it just depends. I'm just giving it as an example. I don't know, you know. I don't think that everybody in Hollywood is, I think everybody in Hollywood is related and part of it, but I don't think everybody is wittingly a part of it, if that makes sense. You know? And I think there are a lot of good people in Hollywood. I have a lot of friends in Hollywood that I know that aren't into that stuff, you know, because I know them. I've known them for years. I've known them personally. And I had a friend, it's so funny. I had a friend that was interning, and he was like, I think my coworker is a Satanist. And at the time I was like, come on, man, that's some bullshit. Like, you're just being a pussy. You're fucking so what if she's a Satanist? I'm like, first, I don't think she is. He was like, they're everywhere. They're all over Hollywood. I was like, come on, man. Like, I didn't believe him. And he was like, yeah, you know how they let each other know? They like when they write each other notes and stuff, they use a pen to they dot their eyes with the star. I was like, come on, man, that's so stupid. But now I'm just like, holy shit, you know. I had this friend too. This other friend that was like, he was rooming with this guy, and he was renting a room out of his house, and this guy had a big house. And get the kids out of the room, because this is a little bit graphic, so I don't want you know, I don't want kids to hear this. I know I curse, but I don't like graphic stuff, so I'm just giving you a spoiler alert, or some time to like turn it off or whatever, because it's graphic. So he was like, he was in bed, and like somebody's climbing in his window, and he said he got so scared that he like picked up the lamp and threw it at the guy, and he jumped on the guy, and he's like, why are you climbing in my window? And he was like, oh my god, he was like, don't kill me, you know, don't hurt me. He goes, so the guy basically was saying that he read an ad on Craigslist that somebody in the house wanted him to come up and rape him. And I guess he climbed up the wrong end of the house. So then he was like, fuck this shit. Like, this guy was like, I don't know his name, and I'm not gonna say his name, but he was he did what did he do? I forgot. He was in the music industry somehow in Hollywood. And the guy, so he was like, first of all, I want to see who I'm living with, because this guy's like this is insane. So he found, he went, when the guy left, he would leave frequency, he went through his stuff. And we were young, like in our 20s and stuff. But he found a snuff film in his closet or whatever. And he was like, fuck this shit, I need to leave. And then and he also, this guy, I remember, because I would always go over there and hang out, and the guy seemed really nice, and I didn't know him, but he was nice. I didn't have an issue with him. A really nice house, and it was fun because he would always leave. So me and my friend would have the house to ourselves, and we'd have other friends over and stuff, and we, run amok through the house. It was fun. But this guy, oh, I know what it was. He had these cookbooks. On how to cook vermin, like bats and snakes and roaches and shit. It was just really, now at the time I had a little bit of a dark side, and I was like, oh, this is cool, this is interesting. But then after that stuff with the climbing in the window and the film and stuff, I was like, this dude's fucking, like, this is crazy. Now looking back on that, because and now when I'm bringing this up because in the movie, they talk about like how they start to brainwash the whole population from a very young age, and at the time I was into a lot of twisted stuff just by virtue of thinking, oh, it's cool, like not noticing the effect that it was having on my psyche, and not even really thinking about why I had the things in my psyche that I did have in my psyche at the time. Now I wouldn't really think that bat, or I won't. I don't think that cookbook on how to cook vermin is cool. Right? It's fucking, who does that shit? Fucking beavers and fucking possums and shit. It was a cookbook on like how to cook that stuff and how to make it delightful. It was like Dangerous Delights or something like that. That was like the name of the cookbook. I was just like, very, very, very interesting. Now that, it sparked a lot of stuff too when I was watching that movie. And I've heard other stories. I probably won't tell them all, but I've heard stories, thank God I didn't get that far, so I don't really have juicy stories, and I wouldn't probably talk about anybody that far up anyway. But through the years growing up in LA, you hear crazy stories in Hollywood about just dark shit, and you're like, oh, and then you start to think about, I think probably all of the A-listers are involved. I have another friend that told me he has an accountant friend. So it's like second-hand information. I told him that once you start making $20 million, you get a brand on your body. I mean, it's hearsay. I haven't seen it, can't prove it, but he said that he was working on a client, or with a client, and he wouldn't say who the client was. Of course, I mean, I wouldn't either. I'd be scared. But he said, yeah, the client, the famous Hollywood actor, showed him the brand. It's like a small brand on their body, but they get a brand after that. So I'm pretty sure maybe they're A-listers that sneak through the cracks. Because there's the only part I'm really puzzled by, has Hollywood always been like this, totally consumed, or did they slowly make their way in through the years? Did some people actually make it to A-list status and slip through the cracks while, and now this point in history is just totally consumed. There's no way you can be an A-list star without doing something mean, and then there's that Justin Bieber situation where he's it was in a Christian magazine. You read articles and stuff, and then the information gets pulled. But so this is all hearsay, right? There's no video of him saying this, but he was basically saying that you know, Justin Bieber like flipped out and like started going to church and shit and doesn't want to be like, who he was before. So he said that they actually tried to make him sacrifice a child, and that freaked him out after he got a certain age, you know. And then you hear stories about the Disney kids, and you know, I mean, it's kind of like all coming together, you know. I don't know, I'm just saying, it's hearsay, but it makes you wonder. You keep hearing the same shit about the same people, and you wonder about certain things, and it just really makes you wonder. But this movie really puts it together very well, and I just want to give these people props and support. So yeah, all right guys, go see the movie. Oh man, it got longer than I expected, but whatever. I'm busy today. I should have the John Rappaport interview up by tomorrow. That's my goal. So all right guys, I will talk to you later. Peace and love. Bye bye.